Hello and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people or tired people, whichever one
Woo,
you happen to be today.
tired.
Same. I took
Oh,
the hardest nap today. Like, and when
mhm.
I mean like hard nap, I mean hard nap, like unconscious, involuntary nap. It was not
That's
the cute kind.
so rare. Like the amount of control issues that I personally struggle with, like to have like a crash nap without like checking that it's all good and that I can
And
take this
setting
time and
an
it's
alarm
scheduled and
and
I'm not
yeah.
gonna miss something. Like that's how you know you're so tired.
I'm so tired. And it's because I'm so tired. I was at an astrological conference over the weekend. So for everybody who's it's like your first episode and you're like, why are we talking about how tired we are? What kind of podcast is this? It is the kind of podcast where your hosts are so committed that they are now sleep deprived because of how much they were committed to furthering their own education over the weekend, specifically with astrology and magic. Booyah. Um,
Also,
yeah.
you guys deserve compliments, and we're going to compliment you
Oh,
right now.
yeah.
So, here, take it, Krista. Tell the
Okay.
story.
To take it away. So, one of the people that I got to hang out with at this astrological conference was, of course, our beloved Erin Fogel. You may remember Erin from a previous podcast episode where Erin shared all of the amazing things that they do. And many of you were very inspired to have readings with Erin. And the
Mhm.
compliment here was that Erin is so qualified and amazing that they have actually also been on like the astrology podcast and they shared for the Aquarius episode if you're interested in checking that out. And from that, they actually didn't get as many new clients or as many referrals as they thought they might from such a popular podcast. But I had mentioned to Erin that many of our viewers and listeners and followers had talked to us and sent us messages and comments about how great of an experience they had with Erin. And we can both also say how validating at a soul level the experience was. I had never felt so soul seen as in
Mhm.
this reading. It changed a lot for me and helped me a ton, much like with Rebecca Jane. So
Mhm.
Erin, I said, I heard a lot of our people seem to really have enjoyed readings with you. And Erin was like, oh my goodness, no, so many of your people have had consultations with me, and I could recognize them as soon as they popped up on the screen because Erin is extremely kind. They have the same glittering energy that you do. And I could tell they were from your podcast with M because they carry that same energy. So I just want everybody listening to know whether this is your first time listening, whether you've been listening for years with us, or you've encountered this randomly, just know that if you are the type of person that listens to this podcast, and if you in any way admire the energy that you feel from this podcast that Em and I are honored to provide, that energy translates and is appreciated by the people outside of this podcast. You glitter.
Yeah. So you're awesome. And I mean, we tell you you're awesome all the time because we deeply believe that and know that. But also, like, you're awesome. Like, that's
It's
incredible.
obvious.
Like,
Yeah.
thank you for being you and having other people see and recognize your magic in that way. Like that's so special. And
I know.
Chris was telling me that I'm like, we have to thank the
Right?
podcast. That's
To be able
amazing.
to go to this really important conference with really
Hmm.
prominent people in the industry and have them tell me how great the audience that listens to our podcast is
Hmm.
felt like, and I know that I don't have like, I'm so proud to be
Hmm.
a part of this community. And
Yeah.
I was just to be associated with all of you was an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for being cool, guys. Like
Yeah.
we really like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a beautiful honor. It's an incredible honor. Um, yeah. So we may be tired, but we're real hyped.
Yeah. We are happy even though
Hmm.
we are tired. Um,
Yeah.
I had for anybody who knows, like I have such a hard time getting home on planes to my local airport on time. And so I had
Hmm.
another one of those. Shout out to Shauna and Davina and Danielle, who were with me in the Cairo airport and know what happened the last time this kind of thing happened. But it happened again. so, so I'm
Krista's
tired.
solo travel journeys are
Are
just
just, yeah, whenever I solo travel, it gets out of hand. And I solo travel a lot, you guys. Pacing the
oh.
airport yesterday, ranting at God. And people noticed because I made eye contact with several of them. But it was like, if you want to listen, listen, because this is what it's like.
So I'm pissed.
Exactly. On the phone with Dan, just being like, I don't know what I do wrong because this was weather. This is nobody's fault. Oh,
Oh, turbulence from weather, by the way, the worst. So
it
suck.
was, I literally, so I've flown all of my life, right?
Hmm.
And Dan is a meteorologist. I'm a Scorpio moon. I feel like that qualifies you to not be afraid in certain situations where people usually panic.
Mm.
And we tried to land twice. So we came in for landing and then we pulled up. Now that time I just groaned because I was like, great, there's a little bit of turbulence. Like the plane got scooted to the side as we were trying to land. So like, okay, crosswinds. I've heard about
Yeah.
these. It's fine. We're still in the air. We're good. Go around, go down. Like at some points, and this is something I try not to do, but I unconsciously will imagine just something coming up out of the ground and just putting the plane on the ground for Pete's sake. And
Uh-huh.
no, we don't want to do that because we have to be specific about the plane getting on the ground safely. So, so every time I feel myself do that because I start to have a meltdown, I'm just like, but safely and efficiently, okay? But then they tried again, and we had to pull up a second time. And then the plane did the one of those like roller coaster drops, and then it did another one,
Mm.
and someone actually did get injured. Like I don't know how, but when we got off the plane at not our destination, I noticed this person looked like they had been punched in the face with a big like goober on their face, and
Big goober.
I I immediately was like, "Oh no, do you need like Advil? I have some of that." And then she was like, "I already took 800 milligrams from the paramedics." And I'm like, "Okay, well, if you need anything, 'cause I don't know what to do. I'm gonna walk around and be mad for 45
I
minutes."
wonder if their phone was like up on something or something and then it like
Well, on the
whacked
way
them.
on the when we got so the flight got diverted from Richmond to Dulles because we were running out of fuel and couldn't keep spinning around. And it was actually really cool because as we were getting to the point where I was getting nervous about the turbulence and
Hmm.
purchased Wi-Fi to communicate with Dan to be like, "Hey, when does this storm go by?" I was watching thunderheads build with like lightning in them and all kinds of stuff. And so I'm like looking out my window like that is phenomenal, especially if it doesn't kill me. But then they were like, okay, well, and as soon as you hear them come on the overhead, it's just like you're going to tell me something I don't want to hear. And it's not the I can prepare myself to hear what I don't want to hear. It's more of the I'm only going to triple my anger when I hear what you're going to tell me kind of energy. And I
Yeah.
try to be aware of that, but I am very Mars ruled. So as soon as they come on, I was like, oh crap, we're going to Dulles. And like I started talking to God at that point. And I was like, can we get some angels or some energies or somebody? And I saw angels at the wings of the aircraft and the turbulence stopped. And I'm like, cool, thanks, guys. Now we need to get on the ground. And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, we're going to Dulles, aren't we? Next thing I know, the guy comes on. He's like, we need more fuel. We have to divert to Dulles. Great. But, and I was like, as long as they don't make us get off the plane, whatever. Put the plane on the ground, refuel, put the plane back in the air, get us to Dulles. I can still have my Taurus son being motivated by the food I was supposed to have when I got out of the airport. Um, like I still have my vegan strawberry shortcake waiting for me. It's gonna be fine. Um, and then we landed Dulles, and they're like, if you want to get off the plane, you can. Just make sure you take all your stuff. And I was like, don't give people that permission because now you're gonna have to herd cats when it's time to get back on the plane.
Hmm.
And then because it was going to overheat, they then made sure all of us had to get off. So everybody has to get off the plane. I'm like, this is specifically what I asked not for. So for anybody out there who's like, why does my manifestation go backwards? Your attitude is everything. And I'm aware of this. And I'm with my attitude a lot because I was like, oh, and look at this is going to happen. And sure enough, it did. Did my energy contribute to it happening? Probably. Is it the universe saying, get over yourself? Probably. Will I? We'll see. But
Hmm.
so that was most of the story. I made it back. The 45-minute flight that I was supposed to have ended up taking 3 hours to get me home.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. So it was over
But
24 hours again by the time I actually got to go to sleep, which seems to be happening a lot lately.
it's really funny. I will say, like right now, a lot more, and I think this has to do with a lot of the like actual astrology for the United States as well as the weather patterns in the United States. But travel within the United States is so much worse right now than going international.
I will say travel within the Western civilization. And by that, I mean
Hmm.
also the UK.
Yeah,
The
fair.
UK and like those super modern and whatever they like to call themselves first world countries seem to be
Hmm.
like missing the quality of experience and
Yeah.
maintaining things the way that they should. Uh,
Hmm.
I
I
think,
mean, the UK is having a moment as well.
uh-huh.
Astrology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
So I haven't checked the
Yeah.
UK's astrology, but I do know what America's going through big time.
Bumpy is the answer. Uh,
That's the
honestly,
current day.
too, I have been checking in a lot with my guides to like what to expect this summer, whatever. And overall, I really do like the energy of the summer a lot. However, the weather is going to be absolutely batshit. And like my guides keep being like, it's not all bad weather, but it's crazy weather. Like it is weather that you guys have never seen. I'm like, huh,
Here in Virginia, we've been warned to
awesome.
check our hurricane evacuation routes in Virginia, which is
Is
like
that
it's
not
not.
normal? I don't know.
I mean,
So,
Virginia is like in Pennsylvania, it's rare to get hurricanes, but we get them sometimes, and they're really cool thunderstorms by the time they hit us. Virginia is above the Carolinas, so it's not in the hurricanes coming at you specifically area. It's
mhm.
usually exempt from that. But the hurricane prediction is so severe this year that apparently they'll swing it like towards Virginia. And Dan, of course, my wonderful partner, is a meteorologist and was telling me how how meteorology good. We call
Mhm.
bad things in astrology that really validate astrology. We call it astrology good, kind of like your
Mhm.
alignment chart. How meteorologically good the readings are
Yeah.
for hurricane season, but
It's
that
gonna be big.
means a lot of challenges. Well, and I don't think I know last week, as of last week, we had tornado outbreaks every
Mhm.
single day for weeks, and I know that the outbreaks have continued. I don't know if we've had a day break that up or not. But y'all,
Mhm.
Jupiter and Uranus were co-present and conjunct for a good long time. And now Jupiter is away from Uranus, but in Gemini.
Did you see the combo NATO? It was
No.
like
Oh, is that, oh
18
yeah, we're like,
tornadoes that combined into
yeah,
one
yeah, I
and
did
were
see that.
all spinning at the same time. Like
Yeah.
what?
That's like sci-fi B movie quality.
Uh-huh. I was like,
All we needed
that's
were
where
sharks.
Sharknado is
Yeah.
inspired from. Like that's a Sharknado
Yeah.
tornado.
Yeah. If they would have gone
What?
in the ocean, we would have had Sharknado.
Uh-huh. Like what is this? But anyway, the energy there, the weather is gonna be wild. So just prepare for
Mhm.
that, whatever
There's
that
a
means for your area.
Yeah, one of the coolest talks I got to go see over the weekend at this astrology conference was by Ali Olomi. Highly recommend
Hmm.
checking out the Patreon there. Um, Ali is a history professor, but really loves astrology, and so brings that into mundane astrology, or as Ali corrected all of us, it should be world astrology. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I had been looking at with my mentor that Ali also confirmed, having much more focus and experience in this area than I've had the privilege of so far, is that climate stuff is a big deal this year.
Yeah. Yeah, climate stuff. And I think obviously part of it's because of the climate crisis that we're having, which is very
Yeah.
real and is absolutely actively happening. I
Mhm.
also think there's an energy of Earth awakening though that's coming into that Earth is like, oh, we're gonna do this? Sure.
Yeah.
Like Gaia has fury.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
feeling a
it's a
little bit
combo.
more, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, but it feels like we're getting less Gaia, more Pele.
Yeah, Paleo is specific to volcanoes.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Just
They
the
actually,
more of
did you
like
hear?
Plutonian side of Gaia.
Yeah, it's actually I think it's more Rhea than Gaia.
Oh, good point. Thank you. Yeah.
So I think it's more Rhea than Gaia. Gaia is like, I am Earth. Here I am.
Mhm.
Let us
Gaia's,
be together.
yeah.
Do you have what you need? And Rhea's like, I don't like my husband. I'm gonna make my son cut off his meh and throw it in the ocean.
Mhm. But I mean, isn't that also
That's
how
the
we
fun.
end up getting Aphrodite? So like there is a good thing on the other side of it, but
Yeah.
first you gotta
Hmm.
get rid of the
Yeah.
toxic
If you're
masculinity.
wondering what I'm talking about, it is the full myth of Kronos as well as Aphrodite's origin story. The first part of the myth of Kronos tends to get forgotten because we focus on the whole Adas kids thing, which like I get, but he also like patricide also was like part of that. So
Yeah.
it's worth noting.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but that's Rhea, and she's intense. She's the like feminine anger side of Earth,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
opinion.
That's what I was searching for. You picked a really good
Yeah,
one. Thank you.
yeah. So she's intense though, and
Mm,
that's what I think is coming up.
yeah. The the divine feminine fury of earth putting us back in our place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
which leads me to one of the topics we wanted to talk about,
Yes.
because when we think about the timeline of earth and the sort of food chain or hierarchy of humanity in the energetic influences of earth, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this is a good segue to that. Do you agree?
I totally do. What I want to say about this too
Yeah,
is this is everything I have thought about, but hadn't had perfect words to say
exactly.
for so long.
And
And so
like,
I am so grateful. We're going to talk on this topic, and it's mostly going to be Krista and I just like fanning over it because
yeah.
it's everything we've tried to communicate to people, but hadn't had the words, and then someone else
And
said it,
then,
and it's exactly the words.
yeah, I had
Oh.
the privilege to share like a 30 seconds of this. The whole conversation was amazing, but these 30 seconds were the highlight of my weekend. Um, for many of you who are into astrology or have seen the astrology podcast or listened to it or whatever, you may be aware of an astrologer named Austin Coppock. Austin and KristaLyn also have their own astrological magic and talisman thing. I will remember it by the end of this conversation, I'm sure. And if not, I'll Google it and let you know later in the podcast. But I have been studying with Austin's lectures and workshops and things like that, not as one of his personal students. I'm actually a student of one of his TAs, and I get more one-on-one because my brain needs it that way. But I go to his lectures and his workshops all the time because he's so good. And this time there was Ficino, who's an astrological magician and a Catholic priest during the Renaissance, who was sponsored by the Medicis. Anybody who was with us in Florence on our birthday, I gushed about Ficino a ton.
On
And
our
I get
birthday, on
to
your birthday.
on our, I just didn't want to be selfish, I guess. No, on my birthday.
It was your birthday. We adventured on your birthday.
We
That was
did.
the live in Florence episode,
Yes,
in
it
case
was
you guys are
my
wondering.
favorite birthday probably ever. Um, Food and astrology and travel, like all the things I love. But anyway,
Mhm.
um, so yeah, so I got to do a 5 hour workshop on Ficino. And so
So
one of the
cool.
things I had said to Austin was like, I find Ficino inspiring as someone who is working towards their master's in divinity for the purposes of reintegrating Christianity with the circle of roads to source.
Hmm.
And also for reintegrating it with magic in the way that it, in my opinion, should not have strayed from in a
Right.
lot of ways. And Austin, like I finally felt after several years of us connecting, but kind of bouncing, um,
Mhm.
that he looked at me like, oh, this is something that I'm interested in too. And I was like, aha, let's talk more. Because if you have something you want to say about this, I want to know what it is because learning is my favorite thing. And so he was sharing um, stories about different talismans and magical works and deities that he has worked with. And you don't get to hear about this as often when you just see the astrology side. And so I was telling him what I'm doing with my master's in divinity and trying to help build a magical doctorate. And he said, can I tell you something? Or can I share with you my theory? And I was just like, are yes, like what is your
Hmm.
theory on magic and religion and philosophy and theology and all of my favorite things with astrology? Like, please tell me all of my favorite things in a sentence. Go for it.
Hmm.
And he said, I believe that Christianity and Buddhism were able to grow so much because they arrived on Earth at a time where we were living in a very haunted, saturated world. And what he meant by that was basically we were not the highest beings on the food chain when it came to energetic influence. And you see that
Hmm.
with a lot of more of the like ancient religions. Like we were at the will of the gods and like all of those things. And so he said, you know, his specific examples were Buddhism and Christianity gave this, he called it, um, hang on, of course my brain is going to go blank on me here. Exorcist, it
Hmm.
exorcised the demons and the ghosts from the world and made it less haunted and made humanity feel like they were more in control. He said, but the problem is now we live in a sterile world.
Hmm.
And I was just like, you spoke the song of my heart into sentences right there. Like that
Hmm.
is amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and it's everything, and we've talked about so many times about how deities did walk around actually in form on planet. You could go and high five Hecate like I do. Don't do that. Don't do that. But
It's
that's something that we do. I'm just gonna throw that out there. That's not an open invitation. That was
yeah,
just
no.
an example. Um, but that was really a thing. Like the spirits, the energies, the house spirits, things like that. They were everywhere. They were prolific. They were part of life constantly, not just in philosophy, but in actuality. Like they were around in a way that now we just take for granted. We're like, yeah, that was just them being, ancient people didn't know science, whatever. It's like, yeah, no, they
No.
knew what was going on, like
Yeah.
very, very well. If any, in a lot of ways, more than we do. In a lot of ways. And
Mhm.
I think that is a beautiful take on it because that is what both of those religions and a couple of the other big organized religions really kind of preached was like, yeah, let's make humanity the top of this spiritual food chain. You guys are the picture of God. No one else is. It's
Yeah.
your image. And just gave humanity back this idea of power and exorcism and releasing of these spirits and stuff. Because, like, let's be real, the Catholic Church believes in all the stuff we believe. They just
Yep.
decide that some of it's evil.
Well,
Like,
and they decide who gets to do it.
mhm. Oh,
And some
yeah.
will call
And
some of it evil to dissuade people for it's a thing.
yeah, but they still acknowledge that it exists, which is
Hmm.
validating, by the way, like really validating. I always take it as that. But yeah, it was a lot of like, let's clear out the world, let's make it good for people. And obviously, I think it's led to some really negative things. But that idea of like, yeah, now we're in a sterile world trying to find our way back because that's our
Hmm.
natural environment is not us being the top of the spiritual food chain necessarily. We're supposed to have other beings here. That's the raising of the vibration that we talk about. That's this like shifting. So I think that was beautiful. And I'm so grateful you shared that. Like, I really, really am.
Yeah, I one of the things that is beautiful about pursuing astrology is that it enriches literally every other aspect of my life, whether that's philosophy, religion, history, mathematics,
Mhm.
anything. Literally everything I can trace back to astrology. Maybe that's the autism, I don't know, but it's beautiful and I adore it. And so just every facet of astrology helps you understand like that people in history were so much more capable than
Mhm.
rhetoric today gives them credit for. Like they knew that Ophiuchus existed. Ophiuchus is listed in Valens. It wasn't like they were like, oh, we didn't know about this
Thing
sign
in the sky.
near the zodiac. Like this constellation wasn't there. Or they knew, I'm going to say it, they knew that the sun and the earth, they knew what the relationship was there. Um,
Hmm.
they learned pretty early on how the earth was round, not necessarily by bumping into a continent that they didn't expect to find, but by using a stick in the ground in the shadow and like
Yeah.
actually figuring it out. And they built their calendars on it, and it
Hmm.
just made a lot more sense that way, to be honest. It wasn't just fake time things that give us anxiety.
Yeah.
That is my personal opinion. I don't have
Yeah.
anybody to
I
defend
mean,
that because it's just how I feel.
they measured obelisk shadows.
Yeah.
Like they took the obelisks in ancient Egypt, one in the north and one in the south, and they were like, wow, at the same time of day, the shadows are different sizes. That must mean the earth is round, which is so simple.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like
And
complicated.
you can see this experiment still today because people use it to disprove flat Earth all the time, or
Constantly,
to at least
constantly.
argue against flat Earth. But
Disproof. Anyway, but no, it's so baffling to me because when I really dove in and got deep into my research for Locusta, I had not felt particularly connected to ancient Rome in any way. And then to learn about the systems that were in place at this like primitive society, like way before us level, I'm like, the amount of socialism and like social welfare that was present in ancient Roman society, like just in that level of like governmental empathy for your people
yeah.
mind-boggling. Like all of the systems were public. Public restrooms were everywhere. There was public fresh free water. There still is all over Rome constantly.
Mhm.
There was the temples had to give food to the poor all the time. That was just what you did. The
Mhm.
government provided food for the poor. There was government baths that were like basically free. There was very little you had to do to go into the bath. Like all of these systems that were just designed to keep the population healthy, happy, and well. Like and all of the fights were free. You could go to the fights, you could go to the races, you could go to the theater, like you could go do these things that were public events on purpose for free to keep the public in a safe, happy, healthy environment. And
Mhm.
then now we're like, we're so advanced. I'm like,
Mhm.
this was 2000 years ago, guys, and they had it figured out and they managed it. And like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, there's other things that were awful too. Of course there were because it wasn't as advanced. But when we were in Greece, we saw a robot. We
Yeah.
saw an ancient Grecian robot when we were in
Yep.
Greece that would pour wine for people.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's I think it behooves the powers of the current societies to make us believe that we are the most advanced when truly and deeply we are not
Mhm.
at all.
And we don't have to be. It doesn't make us
No,
any less than to not be the most advanced. And I think that
no.
sense of failure that comes with not being best is one of our
Hmm.
biggest ego problems as a collective world. You know, if you
And
can just
that's probably
live,
just an
we are where
America
we
thing.
are. Yeah,
I
it
think
might be.
that's an America thing, to
Yeah.
be totally honest, because
Yeah. I mean,
that's
a couple other
what we're
countries seem to
taught.
fall into it too, but it is primarily that same mentality.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even then, some of the other countries,
Still not to this degree.
it's not the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
the like exceptionalism, American exceptionalism is like baffling. The
Yeah.
level that it exists is
Oh,
so
yeah.
much.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, but with that notion too, I think they also right now we're finally realizing like we wish we had the same spiritual connection that people pre-Christianity did or pre-influence
Or-
of Christianity over the
Yeah.
world did. Hmm.
Predomination of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was a time of connection
Yeah.
amongst
Well,
many layers of the universe.
and again, even in Greece, everybody has
Hmm.
like their little chapel thing in their yard. And
Yeah.
you don't go to church every Sunday. You go to church when you need the church. The church is there
Hmm.
for you. It's not this standard that you have to deliver yourself to every week.
Hmm.
That culture was not there before. And then I always blame Constantine these days, for
Hmm.
kind of the strict and rigidity that came into play that has kind of set us up for what we're in now.
Yeah. Damn you, Constantine's mom.
I know, I know.
It's Constantine's mom.
Well, yeah, I mean, he used the Cairo and then was like, dude, that worked. I'm not gonna like tell you not to think I'm a god, but I'm also gonna use this stuff. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fun fact, he was
Oh,
not baptized until his actual deathbed. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that is just a beautiful way of thinking about it. And we recommend you do your own channeling on that too. But hopefully that puts some things into perspective as far as what we have said, as far as like deities and stuff in that time and walking around on planet, what we define as that. It really is, we're de-sterilizing the world. We're making it messy again in the good ways. And that
Mhm.
is a really cool thing to get to be here and incarnated for, in my opinion. I think that's just really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
cool thing is, to your point earlier, you said the opposite of what was it? The opposite of war is creation.
Yeah. The opposite of war
The
is
opposite
creation.
of sterile is fertility. And so we are
Hmm.
sort of making the world spiritually fertile again. And
Oh,
that
I
is
love that.
creation. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually a quote from Rent, the Broadway
Yeah.
musical. Yeah, the opposite of war is creation, and I deeply believe that in my bones. Also, it gives you something to do instead of being like
Yeah.
the opposite of war is peace, which it's not.
Yeah.
The opposite of war is, which war is destruction, is creation. So it gives you something to do to combat that energy, and
Yeah.
it's cool. I
It is.
like that.
Yeah.
I also like the idea that we're refertilizing the earth.
Mhm.
Wake up, happy plants.
My plants are happy. I had to repot my mint this week because it was outgrowing its little pot thing because it's actually thriving. My plants, not a single one is dead yet. Ah,
That's amazing. My
yeah.
plants are
And they're
thriving
not
too.
going to be. They are continuing to
Yeah.
thrive. Sorry, just putting it out there.
No, 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 you're good. No, my plants are thriving too. Harry Potted is gonna need like a
I
like
miss
a
Harry Potter.
twisty situation up over the beams, I think, because
Yeah.
he's popping off. And then my succulents are like, wee. And then yesterday I crocheted a plant because I wanted to. So now I have a fake plant that can never die.
Uh,
My yard plants, though, my lilacs are coming in, which is really exciting. It's
ooh,
covered
ooh.
in dandelions, and then the squirrels ate a bunch of the dandelions, and then I was very upset about that. And then more dandelions bloomed, so I feel a lot better about that. Our aspen trees are actually, I think, going to live, which I really would be. We took them from our other house because the other house wasn't going to value them because there were a ton of little aspen sprouts, and we were like, no, we want them. We've watched them grow for years. We're taking them, so we took them. And I hope they make it. So we're just tishing in the fairies for that one, which I
Yeah,
think will be
may
great.
they thrive. That would be great.
I do want to say the energy of this full moon this past week, if you felt it,
Woohoo.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, you
Many
did.
good things did happen for people.
Oh, very much so.
Hmm.
I had a huge bust through realization as far as my writing is concerned, which
Yep.
was huge and massive for me and was a massive deal. Um, I guess I'll just say it on here. La Custa is finished. Dun, da, da.
Woo!
I'm so excited about it. I have to go through and do content edits, then it's gonna go to my mom. She's gonna copy edit it for me, and then I will pitch it. But so if you've been waiting to read that book, it's done. And
Mhm.
I'm really excited about it. And that was thank you to the full moon. I also went around and like cleansed my entire house and like did rune work above all my window or all of my doors, except for the garage door. I keep meaning to do that and I keep forgetting.
Mhm.
Um, and then I did incense in all the places and whatever, but it feels really nice in here. So even if you didn't do that on the full moon, I do recommend doing it right now because it's been a lot of emotions for the last 4 months and it'll be really nice to cleanse that out of your space. So just a little tip on that. So it was a lot.
Yeah, it was like our second day of Norwalk when this full
Mhm.
moon occurred. And so everybody was saying like, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. And it's not an angular experience for me. But it is the lunar return for my husband. And a
Hmm.
really great work thing happened for him that like made him happier and joyous. And I was very excited about that. It actually took place in my second house. And on that day, you and I had a meeting about incense, outcense, and other nonsense that we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we will. So excited.
Yeah.
Um, cool. A couple things we did. It's a bookend, so we're going to share with you the books that we read this month, which Krista read a lot. I did not, but it's going to
I
be
had
fun.
so much time in airplanes, you guys.
Yeah, so really excited to share that with you. Couple things first that we do want to mention. We know that you guys maybe were expecting like the Italy recap for this
Yeah.
week. That's gonna be a couple weeks out. We're still not fully resolved with Italy yet, and we wanted to talk about the stuff that we're talking about today with you. And then we have a couple really fun guests coming up in the next couple weeks, and then after that we'll talk about Italy. So if you're like, oh, wanted to hear about it, we know we will
Yeah.
talk about it. We promise.
We don't want to tell a story until the end has occurred. And right now
Hmm.
we're in like the climax, the climactic moment. Resolution is coming. But the story is yet to be completed because of the holiday weekend mostly. So like it's not super, super dramatic, but we are not finished writing
Yeah,
this narrative yet.
yeah.
Um,
So we will share our recap with Italy
mhm.
soon. Um, a couple other things that we want to bring up. This Friday, so when you listen to this, it might be literally the next day, depending upon when you're listening to this. We are doing our Deity Academy call for the Hellenic Pantheon. And if you're in Deity Academy, get hyped. It's going to be really cool. If you were like, man, I'd love to do that, because during that call, we're going to be channeling all basically channeling in a bunch of Hellenic deities. We're going to be giving you information about what the Hellenic deities can help you with and kind of like their whole shtick. Obviously, I work very closely with Apollo. Also, I work with Hermes,
Yep.
and we that and Artemis. I have connection in there. Iris, I work with. So like lots of Hellenic deities on this side. We're going to channel them in, and we're going to do that with you, so you can bring your questions for those deities to that call. Which is gonna be really cool. Plus, afterwards, we do a Phasma session, which is recorded. That will also get sent to you. If you're like, man, I really want to do that, we are sending a one. We are now open for one-off tickets for this event. So you can go to ForgottenStorytellers.com, click on events, and there it is your one-off ticket for this call. So you can join us on this call and experience the Hellenic Pantheon and the channeling there, and any messages you need from that sort of space on Friday if you want to do that,
Yeah.
which is pretty exciting. We like it.
Yeah. And so you're going to find events under the more menu. If you go to forgottenstorytellers.com or ninthhousepub.com, they'll take you to the same place. And along the top menu, hover over more. And when you click events, it's the only one there. So you'll be in the
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yep. That is where you go. So we would love if that's those deities speak to you, if that calls out to you, if you feel like you should be there, we would love to have you there. It's just going to be fun. We wanted to make sure that there was space there. And for those of you obviously in Deity Academy, we'll see you on Friday as well, which is really exciting.
Check the group for some really cool magic that you can do in anticipation of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, what else were we gonna announce? My brain just went.
Sacred spaces.
Oh yeah. Don't forget, Sacred Spaces tickets are now on sale.
It's a thing. Yeah, everything's
Like my
available.
brain just totally timed out in that space. Yeah, Sacred Spaces tickets are available. First of all, thank you so much for all of you who have already showed up to get tickets. I mean, they're over a third of them or have already sold, which is really incredible. A lot of the magical add-ons are going pretty quickly. So if you want to attend Sacred Spaces in September, we would love for you to be there. It's going to be a really, really powerful and wonderful experience. When we say it is one of the coolest things we've ever done, and we've done some cool things, but we mean that. Like it is such a cool, validating, community-oriented, like powerful experience
Mhm.
that we all get to have together, and it's so special. So we would love for you to come to Sacred Spaces. It is the last weekend in September. It is in Richmond, Virginia. It is going to be powerful and transformational and life-changing. So many people that came to the first Sacred Spaces are now such good friends and
Yeah.
so close with each other that did not know each other beforehand. And that is probably the thing I'm most proud of, to be totally honest, for holding
Yeah.
this space. Like,
Giving
really.
people sacred space to make friends that are actually good friends. If
Hmm.
you want to learn what friendship can look like, if you want to find that spiritual magic of friendship, if you want to My Little Pony it up,
Hell yeah, you do.
yeah,
My Little Pony.
friendship.
Love it. Friendship is magic forever. Yeah, honestly, it's so so cool. Also, if you are wanting, to come again and you're like, but am I going to see the same speeches? Because a lot of the people at the keynotes are the same people. That
Mhm.
includes the three of us, Krista, Rebecca, and I. No, you're not. We're all having different topics. So it'll be a different experience, very much so. We're shaking it up for each time we do this. We're going to have like a different speech that we give. So I may end up posting the actual speech I gave last one on my YouTube at some point or something. I don't really know, or like
Yeah,
re-giving it just for a YouTube video. Not 100% sure, and so that we can reuse and repurpose those talks. But they are going to be unique and different,
yeah.
which I'm excited about.
I'm
Um,
so excited about mine. I'm about to start diving into deeper research for it. So
yeah, same. Yeah, I'm doing mine on how the universe works, big time, and I'm hyped on it. It's gonna be
I'm doing
cute.
mine about the various forms of ritual magic and how to choose the one that works for you.
Gonna be so neat. So anyway, that's the other thing to look at with Sacred Spaces. We would love to have you there. On my front, applications are going to open for my Train With Me program on like June 2nd, I believe is the date that I'm opening them. So if you want to do some advanced training with me for like 4 months, that's what it is. It's limited spots. It is definitely for like intermediate slash advanced spiritual peeps. If you're like, I don't know if I'm intermediate, if you know the basics, if you know spiritual hygiene, you've worked with your spirit guides, whatever, that would make you pretty much an intermediate as far as my classification goes. If that's something you're called for, I will be sharing the information about that on all the socials and sending to my email list and all of that as well. But it goes live for applications, which it is an application process. You have to apply
Mhm.
um, on Saturday, I guess.
June 1st,
Saturday, which is the second,
the second,
whatever it is, the second. Sunday. I don't know. It's gonna go
Sunday.
on June 2nd.
June
You're gonna be
2nd is
fine.
Sunday.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. So yeah, that's a little ping on stuff that I've got going on, which I'm pretty excited about. Um, let's do bookends and then let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the energy this week. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do you want to do the energy first or do you want to do bookends first?
Feeling books. I'm
Me too.
feeling books.
Yeah. All righty. So I have been prolific this month. I was reading a little bit of nonfiction and a little bit of fiction, as typical. I've gotten my hands on a PDF called "The Fragments of Nichepso and Pedosiris." Those
Mm,
are our original astrologers. Like astrology is credited as being given to us through transmission of some sort to the Babylonians or before by some people say Abraham, lots of people say Hermes. But the first recordings that everybody references back to is when Nichepso and Pedosiris wrote this. We do not have Nichepso and Pedosiris's actual writing. It does not survive, but we have people talking about what they wrote. And so someone brought all of those together and kind of recreated what would be the Nichepso and Pedosiris fragments. So I've been reading that a little bit, and it's wild and amazing because it's the origin story for astrology and for the
mm,
recorded history of it. So I geek out. I also literally read an entire textbook on the story of Christianity, which is what this one is called. So volume one, I have read, and I'm so proud of myself because I word for word read an entire textbook. I am now in volume two in preparation for my class that's starting in a couple months. And then we did Burn a Black Candle with my book club, which was awesome. It's Italian folk magic, but it's a grimoire with anecdotal experiences as well as how to's and like amazing permission to just do what you do. And if you feel brought into this specific tradition of it, here's how you can feel more familiar with it so you feel welcomed, which is so Italian, at least
mm-hmm,
in my family energy anyway. My grandmother, Sicilian. So like just gee, yeah, can I give you some more food? That kind of stuff. And yes, there
mm-hmm.
are food recipes that are also magical in Burn a Black Candle. And then as far as fiction went, I read Rival Most Vile by R.R. Ashwick, which is really cool. It's lit RPG. So it's two potion makers who are rivals, but then don't end up being rivals by the end of it. And it's very cute, very cozy. I adored it. Um,
Got one on the list.
yeah, really cool about like taking care of someone who has had a neglected childhood. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and just being able to like realize where love was in certain areas and like that kind of stuff. It was really cool. And then we get into, so I finished that last week on Wednesday morning. and then went into my travels. So I downloaded a book called Circle of Stars by Craig Montgomery, which was supposed to be this individual who gets swept away to another world where they realize that they are a specific type of person who can channel the 12 zodiac signs through them by way of magic and ability. I have problems with it because I'm an obsessed astrologer. The story itself was fine. I don't feel like I connected with the characters, um, but it was a fine story, a little bit formulaic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it didn't have that draw in kind of energy. Then after that, I read The Darkness Outside Us because it was highly recommended by a pin I had seen on Pinterest. That's by Elliot Schreffer, I think. That was okay. I found it very intriguing. It read kind of like a Doctor Who episode, but more young adult or new adult.
Okay, interesting.
Very, very good for Pride Month. Um, so it's basically these two people who wake up on a spaceship and they're from rival nations back on their world, and they have to work together to do something that they believe they're doing and then find out that there's something deeper. So that's cool. And now I am
That's
wrapping up.
fun.
Yeah, now I'm wrapping up reading The Charm Offensive because I just wanted something light and fun and comfy. And I remember you highly recommending
Yeah,
it. So Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. Um, I'm probably going to finish that later this week. So
nice.
yeah, again, tons of time on planes with audiobooks at 1.5 speed.
Yeah, you
I went for it.
barreled through. You really did, and I am proud of that.
It
I
was
will say
a gorgeous reading.
yeah, I spent a lot of this month writing Lucasta. So that's where my reading fell off a little bit
Yeah.
because it was mostly reading and writing my book, which is really cool.
Mhm.
Oh my God, I'm so happy it's done.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I'm knee deep in doing revisions on Tear Down the Sky. So I'm looking forward to being where you are.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I mean, I'm still in I have to do like some serious revisions and stuff too, but it's not going to be bad. It's going
Mhm.
to be fun and easy, and I'm doing it, and it's going to be great. Anyway, so let's see. I finished Gideon the Ninth this technically this month. I talked about it last month.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's really good. It's
Good.
really good. I've never ever had the experience of being so confused the entire time and still thoroughly enjoying every minute of it. It's weird. That's not normal. Usually, if I'm too confused for too long, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this isn't worth my time. Gideon the Ninth, totally worth your time. Gideon is great. I am hesitant to read the second one, just because of how the first one ended. I'm scared.
Mhm. I
That's
think
what's
I've heard
happening
that.
there.
Yeah, that it like the first one's good and then the second one's like, hmm.
Second one's really good too. Everyone loves all three books of that series. I am personally scared because emotional trauma.
Oh,
So I don't know if I want to do that, but it's really, really good. It's lesbian necromancers in space.
yeah.
Phenomenal. Then I tried to read A Study in Drowning and I got 38% through. I just couldn't drown with her. I just
Mhm.
couldn't keep drowning with her. The author, Ava Reed, is like pretty like people hype her up all the time. She wrote Juniper and Thorn. I haven't read that either, but people loved that book. I know, like I had so many people recommend that book to me. I just didn't get a chance to read it. It is kind of like a little bit of a horror situation, I guess. In that one, this one was just I couldn't get into it at all. But then I read Anxious People by Frederick Backman, and I cannot recommend this book enough. It healed me in ways that I can't even describe. It is so well written. It's so funny. It's masterfully done. Um, it's so good. It's so good. I got about a quarter of the way through and I immediately went to my husband. I was like, you need to listen to this right now. So he's been listening to it with me and getting just as much out of it. It is the story of a hostage situation, but all of the hostages are idiots. But it just speaks so starkly and beautifully of humanity as a whole. If you're a parent, you should listen to it. If you're not a parent, you should listen to it. But like, especially if you're a parent, there's some of the things that they just say about parenting that just it just makes you feel so much better about the world in general. And it healed so much. And every single person in it is a character in a really cool way. And it's written in the way, how can I describe it? It's written in the way that you get to know people, where you don't really know all about them till you know them more. And then you know more about them. And it's written in that way that helps you just see the layers of everyone around you in a really cool and it's cool. I recommend it. Very, very much so. And then I've been playing Dredge, the fishing video game on Switch, and it's been so fun.
I haven't heard about that one.
It's adorable. It's also kind of spooky and it's kind of hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's like very challenging because like the day passes really quickly and at nighttime like you get haunted basically. Like it's haunted and spooky and you have to like dock really quick so that the like anglerfish doesn't come out and get you and damage your boat and steal your fish. And like I love fishing in video games. It's like a passion of mine. I love fishing in video games. Like even when I play Fortnite, like with my kids, I just want to go fish. I'm like, you guys go shoot things. I'm gonna be over here fishing. Fun. It's a fun thing to do in video games. And you're like kind of uncovering a mystery the whole time of like why all this spooky stuff's happening and why there's mutated fish that you fish up on occasion and why
Mhm.
there's these characters around that are kind of spooky and it's really fun. I really like it. So I've been playing that too. Um, as well as like I said, crocheting a potted plant. So it's also what I did this month. But yeah, that's what I read. It was good. Anxious People. Cannot recommend it enough. So good. The dedication to the book, just so you guys know, this is like the moment I knew I'd like the book. The dedication is to all the people that live in my head and to my wife who has to live with all of us. And I love that so much.
That's so
Uh,
cute.
right? So yeah, it was really good.
So I
Um,
also realized I didn't remember the name of Austin and his wife
oh yeah.
Caitlin's magic shop. It is Sphere and Sundry, and
Oh,
it's
that's
magical
cute.
materia. It will help to know your chart going into it if you're looking for what you should want to purchase. They do have an article there that kind of helps guide you through it, but a basic understanding of your chart is really helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Circling back around.
Sorry about
So
that.
the energy this week, I described it earlier as it to me it feels like a beach and there's no wind happening on
Mhm.
the beach. So you're sitting there and the water's not really moving, nothing's really moving, and like yes, it's a beach and you're relaxing, okay, but also it's a little bit easy to get kind of complacent with that and get a sunburn, and out of nowhere a seagull can still come and steal your lunch. It's like not the most relaxing experience because it's not like there's normal movement and wind and kids laughing. It's a little bit like huh. But it is calming in a sense, in that way of like, okay, well, I'm preparing to do something. I'm either going to get in the water, I'm going to go home, I'm going to make some food, I'm going to grab the water from the cooler. Like you're preparing to do something, you just don't quite know what that thing is. That's the energy of this week to me.
Yeah. So to support that astrologically, we start out this week where my interpretation would be, starting on Monday, we have this desire to kind of get things organized. Like, I really want to take all the scattered things in my life and put them in categories so I know what I'm doing. And
Hmm.
then somehow throughout the week, we're going to end up thinking, you know what? Forget that. Um, because you do have like the Mercury sextile Saturn happening on Monday. So if you felt that at the beginning of the week, by the time you're listening to this, and you are now nearing Friday where it's starting to feel like, well, I had these plans. Those plans aren't useless. The plans are there to help you know where to start and know where you've been and know what you want so you can allow the universe to say, hey, you made it to this step, but what if you took it one step further or did something a little bit different? So you are stepping your way towards some kind of revelation or
Hmm.
epiphany or stroke of genius. That being said, it may come from something that feels a little bit emotionally triggering that helps you realize what you don't want to feel any longer and helps you realize the power that you have rather than the power that you believe other people have over you. Uh,
Hmm.
that's something that I would just, if you find yourself feeling less than the people around you, ask yourself in what way you might actually be better off staying true to yourself and trusting your own intuition and instincts and not putting other people on pedestals, whether they're higher or lower, so that you can stand on your ground, own your power, and then let them have space for theirs too.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Saturday when Jupiter trines Pluto. I'm like, why am I talking about power so much? Oh, Pluto.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give your power to those who deserve it. Pick your battles.
Share
Reserve
your
it as
power
needed.
with those who deserve it.
Yes, not give. Share. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Share your power with those who deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And also just kind of reestablish it. Like I always recommend too, and especially when it comes to things like power or confidence or whatever, like figure out what that definition is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes it's so ambiguous. We're just like, yeah, I'm powerful. And then you're
Yeah.
like, the fuck does that mean? So if you take a second and actually journal, like, what is that actual definition? It can be really, really helpful and make
Agreed.
a big difference. Absolutely. Well, yeah, this was our scattered, tired episode. Hopefully, it was super beneficial to you. We thank you so much for listening. You guys are fantastic. Obviously, we do have a podcast Patreon. You can guys go ahead and ask questions in there if you want to. We will post some episode topic polls. Didn't really do the polls for the first half this year because it was pretty much all built out with the amount of traveling and things that we had coming up. We knew that you wanted to hear about. So that's what's been kind of going on there. But you can join the podcast Patreon. You can also check out our individual Patreons. We got all sorts of fun stuff in there. We hope to see you at Sacred Spaces in the D&D Academy call, and we hope that you take all this energy and you
Go
go make
make
some
some magic.
magic. Yeah, we're gonna